Got it.
Hi, everyone. It's
Well,
Andrea Quagenti,
Hi,
and
it's Angela here.
I'm here with Angela and Sharon. And hopefully some more people will come to our weekly Zoom. Yay. This is our fourth call. We're still working through the technology, but Angela and I are so happy just to talk, we created this space just for us to talk and to get together with other parents that maybe want to learn about unschooling or need some support. And I was just saying that this is just out of pure pleasure and as a way to kind of build our group and there's no other, strings attached. This is just a free call that we offer for anyone that wants to talk about, my favorite topic, which is alternative education. And we have Sharon here tonight. Yay. She is an experienced unschooler and her children are now grown. So she's going to just tell us about, her role on schooling, especially years ago, and about her children and how this style of education has benefited her and her children.
so how should I start? Let's see. So we started out sending our children to public schools and very quickly discovered that our oldest daughter was a square peg that they were trying to fit into a round hole. And when we started looking at things a little more closely, we realized she was just going to turn into a miserable person. This wasn't going to work. We're like, oh, but it's fine for our middle daughter. And I looked at my middle daughter and I realized that she was like a teacher's dream. She did everything she was supposed to do in school. She complied, she did all of that stuff. And then she would come home and fall apart and have temper tantrums. And I realized, first of all, school was fine, but who wants fine for their children? That's not a great standard. And then the other piece was that I was getting all the leftovers of my child. The teacher was getting all the best of her and all of the fun stuff, and I was getting the garbage and the temper tantrums. So we decided that was it. We were pulling them from school, but we weren't quite on board with the homeschooling thing yet. We didn't really even know about homeschooling. And we ended up sending them to a school in Framingham, Massachusetts, that's known as a democratic school called Sudbury Valley School. My oldest ended up graduating from there at age 18. My middle one came to me one day after she was 9 months, towards the end of her first year. And she says, Mom, she's 7 years old. Mom, I'm not really sure that Sudbury Valley is really the best place for me, but I've heard of this thing called unschooling and homeschooling from some of the other kids. And I'd really like to try that. And you realize when you send your kids into the alternative world that you need to listen to them. And we looked into it and I went through the whole process of I can't do this. Can I do this? Maybe I can do this. There's no way I can do this. No, maybe I can do this. No, I can't. Yes, I can do this. So my oldest stayed at Sudbury Valley. My middle one started homeschooling. And my son at that point was only about 3 years old. So he actually never went to any formal school outside of our home. I fully expected to bring the kids with me to drop off my oldest at her school on the first day of school in September, and my middle one to go, no, I changed my mind. No, I want to go. And she didn't. And I remember, oh, wait, can I swear on this? I remember driving home that day and going, oh crap, I have to figure out how to do this. What am I going to do? And that's where this all started. So my middle one was 7. My baby was 3 or 2. He was 2 years old at the time. And that started us on our unschooling journey. I think that year of them being at this alternative school really helped us to undo a lot of the societal expectations of what people think school looks like and learning looks like. And it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. I mean, these kids, the school co-op, we did all kinds of activities. We hired tutors occasionally, but we really did child-led learning and followed what they would want to do. And when you let your children naturally learn, they will actually do things like, hey, Mom, I'm really interested in wolves. We've got to go to the library. And then you do. And then you learn about wolves. And you get to a point where you look at them and you go, wow, in 16 years or whatever, they've learned everything that they need to know, because most of what they need to know is how to learn, not facts, not figures, just how to learn and how to think and how to be a good person. So it totally works. My oldest graduated from Sudbury Valley School and to like 3 or 4. The middle one is at went to community college starting at about 16. Went to UMass, got a degree in English, and is working and now living with her fiance. And my youngest son had the most interesting situation when he unschooled completely until he was about 14 years old. And he kind of looked up one day, and we were finding that the kids that we were hanging out with were getting kind of weird. They were getting into like a drug culture that he wasn't comfortable with. I'm not sure why. And returning to school for some reason. So we thought about kind of restarting our community and trying to find some other kids out there that were going to fit our values and unschooling and kind of what we wanted to do. But he started thinking about it, and he's like, I think I really want to do like a formal schooling. He was getting really interested in religion. And we are Jewish. And he decided that he really wanted to kind of dive deep into his Judaism. So we ended up sending him to a boarding school for Jewish boys, starting at age 15, which people were like, you're sending him? No, we're not sending him. He's choosing to go. And we knew, because we had spent so much time talking to him and working with him and getting to know him, that this was his choice. He's like, I really want to dive deep in this. It wasn't like, you're not religious enough for me, but it was like, you're not living a lifestyle that I want to try out. Let me go do this. And he did. And he's a pretty observant Jew right now. He does all of this stuff because of that high school. And now he's at Binghamton University as a junior. So it totally works.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really interesting point. Like, we talked about this a little bit on one of our first meetings about how like unschooling does not necessarily mean that there's one specific way that you school. It just means leaving it up for the child to decide what they want.
Yep.
I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
I would love to know, since you have grown unschoolers, I would love to know what your former self, when you were just starting out, if there's anything that, like any advice or anything that you would let them know right then to help you.
Great question. I think the biggest thing is that not to worry so much. You're not going to break them. You're not going to damage your kids, and they can always learn stuff later. I had this image, like I remember our first week of homeschooling, I actually bought a curriculum, and I was like sitting there and like figuring out my checklist, and they have to do this by this date, and they have to be ready for algebra by the time they're 12, and all of these schedules. I wish I had just given up on all of that stuff and just lived our lives starting from the very beginning, because the bottom line is that when they do decide they're ready to learn something, it just happens in its own time. So like with my daughters, I don't know what it is with girls, but a lot of girls learn to read naturally, often around 4 or age 5. So I never really worried about reading for them because they just kind of did it on their own. But my son, I remember he was getting up around 6 or 7 and he wasn't reading yet. So I wasn't really concerned about it, but I know that that's a thing that a lot of people really worry about. Like, oh my goodness, they must be able to read by age 5 or age 6. You know, people have these timelines, these artificial timelines. And I knew enough, I was a little concerned, but I knew enough to not worry so much. But I'm like, okay, so he's 7. Maybe we should start thinking about this. And I decided to buy a book of lessons on how to teach your child to read. And we sat down and we started going through the book. when he was interested in it, it ended up being like a lesson a day, every couple of days. And about a third of the way through the book, he looked at it, he went, oh, I get it. And that was it. So I really wish I could have told myself, like, when the kids are ready to learn, the learning happens very quickly. When they're motivated to learn, I know so many children that learned how to read because they wanted to read the instructions on the video game and how to play the video game. Or kids who learned math, not because, like, in a school environment where you have to learn math as a discrete subject, but they were doing Minecraft, and math is involved in doing Minecraft. My son learned arithmetic through cribbage, which is a card game. He is so quick at arithmetic, and we never sat down. He never memorized times tables. It was just part of life. So I really wish that first year, I just told myself, like, don't worry. By the time these kids hit 18, they have everything they need. It doesn't have to happen on a timeline. There's no deadlines. I remember joking with a friend once. Have you ever been back when we used to do cocktail parties, have you ever been at a cocktail party and everybody's talking about some really famous book? And you're like, I've never read that book. I don't know. Were you absent from school that day? Maybe. Is your life any worse because you didn't read the same book as everybody else? Of course not. And if you really love the book and you're really interested in it, go read it. So you read it after everybody else, big deal. So that would be really it. Like let go of the timeline.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think in our day and age now too, with like the way the internet is set up and the way that information is just so available, I think it might be easier for parents to step into what we're talking about now. I think that this model has probably always worked, but now especially it's just like more apparent. Like, wow, if I haven't read that book that everyone else has read and I feel like I actually want to, I can just go look it up.
Go read it now.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose kid has been learning like some sort of advanced physics on YouTube.
We love YouTube. So just so you
Yeah.
know, I unschool my daughter who's 8, and Angela has 4 children, one of which a baby might make an appearance this
You
evening.
might wake up.
Aww.
I might have to mute myself and go get it.
And her other 3 are at a Sudbury school in California. But I have never heard of a transition from unschooling to someone choosing boarding school. So your son that made that choice, did he love it?
Loved it. He was ready.
Yeah.
He was totally, because he had spent 14 years with us following his own path. And he really was getting very interested in the Judaism and diving in more. I mean, we keep fairly observant, but he really wanted to learn more. The resources around here were really not sufficient. There were a couple of day schools, but they weren't a good fit for him. So we started looking around. We actually were told about a really great school in Milwaukee. It was like 30 boys at the time. They would board at people's homes. It wasn't a dorm. And they were completely immersed in Judaism. And they also did secular studies. So it was a blend of both. And he was like, we interviewed with them, we visited them, and he was like, he was ready for when kids learn that challenging themselves and possibly failing is okay, then they're not afraid to challenge themselves. A lot of kids get afraid of trying something new because they're going to fail. And they've been taught that failure is not good. Mm-hmm. He knew, like, we could try this out. If it didn't work, that was okay. It was a completely safe thing to try. I do remember driving him out there. We decided instead of flying, it would be nice to take like 2 or 3 days to drive to Milwaukee to sort of give a transition and allow some happening. Every once in a while he would be like, "Why are you making me do this?" Like, no, this was your choice, remember? He's like, "Oh yeah, okay. Why am I doing this again?" Because you want to learn this stuff, and this is going to be the best way for you to learn all of this. And you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's right, okay."
I think sorry, I interrupted.
It was totally his choice.
Yeah. I think that makes all the difference is the choice. It's like, it's really hard for so much for kids to process when life is not their choice. Like that's not only processing the fact that they are taking on a bunch of responsibilities or things that you have to do inside of the school, but it's taking on the questioning itself of like, why am I even having to do this? That's a lot for a kid to process. When we leave it, when we give them the option, it's like, I don't know, it's just so much more clear.
Right. And there's enough in life that's not a choice. You don't have a choice about brushing your teeth. You know, you don't necessarily have choices about, I don't know, health and food and safety things or whatever. Like there's enough in life that are rules. Like, isn't it great to give them choices when we can? I mean, a lot of people think that the Sudbury schools don't have any rules. They have a ton of rules.
You're missing a point.
When my husband is telling me, what am I missing?
We also teach kids through unschooling that this goes through your entire lifetime.
Right. Another thing that's important with the unschooling is that this is a lifelong thing. You can always learn stuff. I've been delving since the shutdowns. I've discovered a group that does Jewish learning over Zoom that I've been delving into myself. You know, so here I am in my 50s learning more.
What am I doing?
So, and my husband picked up a couple of interesting hobbies. He's been learning how to be a football player. So,
Nice.
so and modeling that for our kids, but it's not that there is no rules, and it's not that there's no limitations. It's not that you can do everything, but you can do anything if you set your mind to it. And it was funny watching him be in school though, because when I was in public school, we learned pretty early on that you do the minimum you have to get your A. And you're not there to learn, you're just there to get your A. And you're there to get it done. And his attitude was way different, which was wonderful, watching him like really wanting to learn. But then there was also when we would do, I don't know, when we do workbooks or other kinds of more academic things, if I thought the kids understood the concept, we would turn the page. Yeah, I know there's 10 questions on this page, but you've got this. Let's go to the next page. When he was in school, they don't let you do things like that. There's no flexibility. So there were plenty of times that he would call us and he'd be like, I can't believe I have to do this busy work. And there were actually times that I almost offered to do it for him because I agreed with him. It was really stupid. But you would always come back to the fact that, you know what, though? You want to get the good grade in this class. And this is what you have to do to get that grade. So let's just get it done.
Yeah.
They get very mercenary about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because that brings up an idea that, you know, kids who are not raised with just like swallowing authoritarian instruction, when they go out into the quote unquote real world, which they've probably been immersed in their entire life, but it's more like a critical thinking type of energy that they have, where if you see something that's like, why are you doing that? That doesn't even make sense, rather than just like, you know, buttoning up and getting it done. So in a way, maybe intentionally or unintentionally raising system changers as well.
Oh, for sure. Kids that question, I mean, we need a lot of questioning in our society right now. My daughter, when she first went to community college, it was the first time since first grade, since she was 6 years old, that she was in an actual classroom that was being run by people other than her friends' moms. So I remember we were, you know, and this happened to my son too. People always ask, what was that transition like? And for my son, because he was also leaving home, it probably took him a month or two to transition into school, into the idea of homework and being with other kids all the time and being in a classroom. It took him a little while, but the transition was not difficult. With my daughter, she went off to, she's 16 years old. I drop her off at her first community college class. I pick her up. How was it? She's like, it's good. Like, so they give me my homework. I have to write it down so I can take care of it, right? You do. Okay. Next day, I just realized these teachers don't know me. I should probably go to their office hours and introduce myself so they know who I am. I said, absolutely. That was it. That was her whole transition from unschooling to formal school. I have to write down my homework so I can get it done. And I should introduce myself to the teachers so they get to know me. That was it. That was it. Because she was already in Yiddish, we'd say that someone who's has good character, is a mensch. So she was already a mensch. She already knew how to behave in a classroom, how to behave in a society. She knew, one of the things that I haven't even touched upon with these kids is they're great with all ages. They can talk to a 2-year-old and they can talk to an adult because they're interacting with all of those ages all the time. One of my favorite things at homeschool co-op was when all of the children would get together and play a game of tag. And you'd have the 3-year-olds out there all the way up to 17. And the bigger kids are taking care of the little ones. And they all get along and they all talk to each other and they all interact. So that when we send them out into the world, they know how to get along with everybody. It's really beautiful. It's not like, oh, I'm 10 years old. Oh, are you 10 years old? Oh, good, we can play now. There's none of that. So I don't know. It was amazing. These kids are just awesome. They really become such functional adults. They learn to take responsibility for themselves. They learn how to fit into society. And like you're saying, they learn to question things. They don't just accept stuff that they're fed. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm wondering if when they did make any transition, did they need to take like prerequisites of any kind, like a course or something, just to catch up on math a little bit?
I'm trying to remember. My daughter, she was not a great math thinker, and the community college was a really good fit for her because they're designed with a lot of like what they would call remedial classes in place. So I think she did end up doing, before they would let her take any of the advanced classes, they make you pre-test. And I think she did take like a high school level math class first. But because of the way they teach it, and because the kids are already, their brains are already kind of prepped for math, she basically did all of high school algebra or all of elementary school algebra in like one semester. So like my favorite example of this is when you've got a kindergartner and you try and teach them division. It's a big concept. They don't understand division. But if you have a 12-year-old and you say, you know how you had that pizza the other day and there were 8 slices and there were 3 kids and you had to divide up the pizza so everyone got the same amount? And they go, yeah. You go, that's division. Oh, okay. So life has already taught them a lot of these concepts. So you say, okay, so that's what division is. And they go, okay, that's fine. They say, and then this is how you do long division on a piece of paper, or this is how division works with numbers. And they get it. It's just a matter of showing them and teaching them the vocabulary of math instead of having to teach them concepts. I mean, most kids, they've already got arithmetic down if they've done any shopping and they've gotten change, or if they've played board games or card games. So, I mean, I know the Sudbury Valley School that my daughter went to, they had a famous group of kids that went through K through 8 elementary algebra, not elementary algebra, elementary math, K through 8 in like 2 months. A group of them because
the children wanted to learn it.
They wanted to learn it, and
Right.
they lived life enough already that they already understood the basic concepts. Like I said, teaching a kindergartner how to divide up 8 slices of pizza between 3 people is not an easy thing to do. But when you're 8 or 12, you already have done that in your life. You have that experience, you have that concept. Your brain is developed enough so that math is already part of your life. And then it's just attaching vocabulary to it. So she did do like a prep math thing. She was already very much of a reader and a writer, but there were reading and writing classes available to help her get up to quote unquote speed at the college level. And then for my son, he walked in as a freshman. Interestingly enough, so he not only had the secular stuff to prepare for, but he also had the Jewish stuff. He was already a fluent reader of Hebrew. But a lot of the kids had never read Hebrew before. So he walked in there kind of more advanced on that stuff. And I think that kind of bolstered him a little bit so that if he was quote unquote behind on that things, he didn't even question it. I think that's another thing that I would have liked to have told myself when I first started unschooling. This whole idea of being behind or ahead, get rid of that. There's no such thing. You know, I mean, I'm probably as an adult ahead on certain concepts and behind on other, and that just doesn't matter. Like those kinds of concepts don't matter. One of my favorite wise ass answers to people who would always ask, but what about math? I'd be like, well, what about math? It's part of life. They're learning it. You know, if learning French were important to us, they'd be learning French. You just make it part of your life. But my son, yeah, again, so like for the Jewish stuff, so he was already kind of ahead some of the other students. Again, like I said, I don't really love that concept, but he already knew how to read Hebrew. He already knew how to keep a kosher diet. Like there were a lot of things that he knew already that some of his peers didn't. So I think that kind of bolstered him when he was in math things or English things and he maybe didn't know how to spell something. But again, he wasn't brought up with the concept of behind anyway.
Yeah.
Or the concept of that failure is bad and that trying and not getting it the first time is a problem. Working at something. I'll never forget one of my favorite Sudbury Valley experiences was when one of the teachers, well, not the teachers, they call them staff, came up to me at one of the parent events and said, I got to tell you, I'm so proud of your daughter. I said, what happened? She said, she's really bad at math. I'm like, yeah, I know. She says, but she challenges herself and she tries to learn it anyway. And I'm very proud of her. And I was really pleased with that. And I walked away saying that would never happen at a public school. Yeah. Instead, at a public school, they would tell you how horrible your kid was at math and how they need extra help and they need extra tutors and they're behind and they're going to fall behind and all of how we're, no. At Sudbury Valley, that was a good thing. She's really challenging herself and she's doing it anyway. I'm really proud of her. She really sucks at it. I'm very proud of her. Like, when would that happen in a public school? Never.
Yeah.
But the Sudbury Valley school that we sent our daughter to was the original. And I don't know if you heard, but the founder died recently.
I did hear. Yeah.
Yeah, he died about is it a month ago, Rob, that Danny died? Three months?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, so he just passed away a few months ago. He was quite a man, Danny Greenberg.
Yeah. The Sudbury school that my kids go to now had made like a paper bouquet of flowers for him to celebrate his passing. Yeah.
So sweet. Oh.
It
He
brings
was-
up ideas too when you talk about when we try to force these like learning things into kids at an age that their brains either aren't developed or they just simply don't have enough information yet. They haven't been through enough life yet. It also creates the impression that you're not smart and that there's something actually wrong with you when there's nothing wrong with you at all. It's
Again, that's
life experience. Yeah.
exactly. That's why I said, like, you get rid of these concepts like behind. What does that mean? Behind who made the timetable? I mean, and then you start learning that the only reason that in most high schools they do biology, chemistry, and then physics is because they couldn't decide what order to do it, so they did it alphabetically.
Oh, that's awesome.
And all the people are like, "Oh, you must learn biology before chemistry before." No, you just learn life.
There's a great concept in the spiritual world, and it's inspiration versus motivation. So as we know, traditional schools use motivation. So they motivate the children to learn, right, with external things. That motivation can be a punishment or it could be a reward. Angela and I have talked about this a lot, but when you're inspired to learn something, it's a completely different spectrum because now you've got that inner drive. So you're being inspired. And then that's when the magic happens, when,
Right.
a child, just like you said, it's a couple lessons and they click, they get it, they're good, they can do that Minecraft thing.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see. I had never really
Right.
seen a lot of that, those like big aha moments and those learning, huge steps in learning until with my daughter with reading and some other things, and you can just see when they get it, and they get it.
Yeah.
And it seems that they'll remember it forever,
Right. It becomes theirs. In Talmud, there's a line that educating is not about filling a vessel, but lighting a fire.
I'm gonna write that
And
one down. That's a good one. I
Yeah.
knew that one, but
Yeah, they're not a vessel. It's not a vessel to fill. It's a fire to light. I forget the exact wording of it, but that's the idea.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so true. It is so true. Then it becomes theirs. And when it's theirs, no one can take it away. And then you watch them take one concept from one. The other thing that I always find so interesting is the division of subjects. We did a lot of things that I guess you could call that people call unit studies, where like we did a whole series for years at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. I found an amazing teacher there. And he used to give the kids art classes. We used to walk around the museum, and then he would take them to the studio and they would do something based on what they saw. And he would bring in philosophy, science, culture, history, art, all into these classes. And the kids didn't know they were learning history. They were just doing a great class with Jake. So they didn't have these like discrete, now we learn history. We will read stories of the past. Now we learn this, there's none of that. It's all one thing. So I guess unit studies is kind of a big homeschooly thing. And I guess we did do some of that. But again, it's all life. Whoops. Oh, because it's on my phone. I have to tell my daughter to leave me alone.
No. I think you bring up a really interesting concept though about how it's all life. Like if you think about how we're designed as human beings over the generations and eons or whatever it's been, the brain, I think, is designed to actually learn through whole picture understandings. Like school is a relatively new invention where we separate it into subjects and teach the brain. And it turns out that sort of like memorization and that sort of integrating of information is limited. It actually there's been research studies on this that you can look up, but it actually shows that learning is more shallow, and also it doesn't get remembered as much. And also it doesn't have like as deep of an application to life because it wasn't learned with the purpose to actually use it in life. It was learned to like sort of under these stressful situations of like trying to prove that you know and can regurgitate information. But when we go, yeah.
I have a quote on that. I actually have I'll post it. I have a small YouTube clip. Yes, so connected learning is, like you're saying, we're studying art and now we're getting into history and philosophy and math. So that's connected, that sticks, as opposed to disconnected. Now we're going to do a bunch of math problems that don't mean anything. How about you tell a kid, here's $100, let's go to the toy store. You know what I mean? You're talking apples and oranges,
Right.
So
right. I have $100. You can't spend 150. That's the concept.
Yeah.
And that's a real concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the MFA is still doing those homeschooling programs.
I'll write it down.
But oh my God, they were awesome. They were amazing.
Good to know. I'll share that with my Massachusetts friends. I
Exactly.
think before COVID they were happening, but I don't know if I've seen them pop up again. Like that seems to be we're actually traveling right now. We're in our motorhome. So when this curtain opens, that's my daughter's space up there. Let's see if you can. So anyways,
so awesome.
Yeah. So we're really, we're learning on the road, and she's learning so much from nature, fire, safety, and she knows how to work the camper at 8 years old. So no,
Wow.
So and she's interested. It's not it's excited, inspired learning. But yeah, so when we started homeschooling with the hopes to travel more, which we are traveling more, there was a lot of programs in Massachusetts. There was tons of things. And then obviously when COVID hit, like everything got canceled. And now
Everything went away.
Yeah, and now things are like slowly, what I find is, more programs are popping up. I would say it's definitely starting to rebuild in Massachusetts. I don't know how it is in other
Right.
places. But a lot of the groups got very quiet you know, for a
Yeah, I know
while.
I know the homeschool co-op I used to help run basically disappeared.
That happened to it was kind of sad, at least if you're in, at a Sudbury school, maybe they went remote, or however they did it. Is that what you guys did, Angela? Did you go remote?
Yeah. Yeah, they had to go remote legally actually for a little bit in order to like still stay functioning. And then they opened it up hybrid now. It actually turned out to be a really awesome thing because just like you were saying, Sharon, like I have a daughter too who loves to go to in-person school, but she doesn't like to go full time. And it was going
Yep.
to be a thing where we might leave the school, just to
Right,
honor.
because they want you full time.
Yeah. So now that they have this virtual or hybrid program, she's actually home today because she can choose which days of the week that she wants to go in person and stay home so she can like strike that balance. So
Wow.
thank you, COVID, for that.
Yeah. Well, and even
Yeah.
with stuff like this, when would we have Zoomed together before the shutdowns happened?
Right. Totally.
And I do know that, and it seems like there are more and more people homeschooling because they want the freedom to have their kids not be masked and or shot up or any of that kind of stuff. So that's another thing too, that
Yes,
homeschooling gives you
totally.
freedom to choose which way you want to go.
So my kid's school has had such a huge upsurge in attendance or not attendance, but enrollment because I think it's for many different reasons, but that's definitely one of them because teachers are like, or moms are like, I am not having my kid go do the like whole masking vaccinating thing, but also because a lot of the schools were brought home. And so parents had to homeschool, like traditionally school, but homeschool in the home. And I think parents had big aha moments. I think they were like, what are we doing? This is no, there has to be
really
something.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what we used to call school at home before there was, truly school at home with all of the remote stuff with all the shutdowns. But I had a lot of friends who used to do school at home, which was like, okay, today is Monday. From 9 to 9:30, we're going to do this textbook. And from 9:30 to 10, we're going to do that textbook. And we're going to have a field trip on Thursday. They were very regimented and schooly. Yes. But that's definitely not how we homeschooled at all. But all of these people were now stuck doing all of and being the cops for their kids and making sure that they followed all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of the kids having to sit in front of a computer for a certain amount of time in order for it to count as education, as school. Oh, please.
Oh, my baby woke up. I'm going to grab him really fast. Oh,
yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Awesome. I just want to say hi, Gail. I know that you came on. You're welcome to join our conversation. Sharon is a mom to some grown unschoolers and self-directed educated. And I want to say hi to Violet in the background. This is like a family. Yeah. So anyways, we're just chatting. And you know what? I wonder, Sharon, so your son is still in college. Are your daughters graduated? And
They're all done. So my oldest one is in graduate school to become an architect. My middle one, so when she graduated, she ended up not doing grad school or anything. She kind of floated around to kind of marketing, social media, writing kind of jobs, which she's been doing for a couple of years. And I think she's getting married in October, and I think will very quickly be on her way to being a stay-at-home mom, which makes me really proud.
Congratulations.
So we'll see. I mean,
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's her path.
Okay.
And I've actually asked her if she would homeschool her own children. And it's really interesting talking to my kids now about their perception of what homeschooling was like. And all three of them are like, oh, it's not the same anymore. Like, we homeschooled in the golden age. Like, homeschooling was perfect when we homeschooled, and now it's not the same. Like, well, it may not be the same, but you could also make it whatever you want it to be. I mean, whatever you like to, like, they loved homeschool co-op. They loved the ability to, like, my son at 8 years old, he's like, I want to play guitar. I'm like, okay. play guitar. We got him a guitar, we got him teachers. And at one point he was really interested in blacksmithing. We found a blacksmith. He was a blacksmith for like 2 years.
So cool.
The ability to do all of this like weird extracurricular stuff really, the flexibility of it. So I was like, well, so you guys homeschooled in the golden age, you can make your own golden age of homeschooling. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. I think the middle one, I think they get married in October, and I think there'll be babies pretty soon after that. And then my youngest, he's a junior at Binghamton. He's got another year plus, and then he's probably going to do a 5th year MBA program. But it's really interesting watching. When they're in college, they're like very mercenary about it. It's like, okay, what classes do I need to get my major? What major do I want? They're not, there's so many of these kids that just go to college because that's what you do next.
Right.
Like all 3 of them, they're like, okay, we want to get our degree. We want to make something happen. We want to really be serious about it. We don't want to waste time. I mean, they want to have fun, but they don't want to waste their time. So like my son, who's going to be an economics major, also wants to make sure that he takes enough electives to make it fun, but he really wants to focus on his major. He really likes it. So it's like, it's interesting watching their college experience being colored by their unschooling experience.
Yeah, and it must be so awesome for you as a parent, seeing them just like so self-motivated and so focused that they're not just like, I don't know who I am. They're
Right.
not having those identity crises and just kind of like, oh, well, I have to go to college because that's the path to success. Which I
Right.
don't even.
Unlike
Yeah.
me, who walked into, when I was growing up, if you were smart, you took science and math classes and you went to medical school, because that's what smart kids did. And I walked into organic chemistry the first day of my sophomore year at college, and I looked around and I was like, I hate these people. I hate this. I don't want to be a doctor. Who said I had to be a doctor? And I got up and I walked out. And back in those days, I don't think we even used computers for registration. I walked over to the registrar's office and I'm like, I'm dropping everything. I'm not pre-med anymore. I need to find something else to do. Didn't even figure out what my major was until like second semester junior year, because I had been told my whole life what I was going to do. I had never been given the chance, and it wasn't even like my parents told me what to do. It was almost a societal thing. Smart kids smart kids become doctors and go to medical school and become doctors. That's just what you did.
Yeah.
And I don't think my children are free of existential crises completely, because that's just part of the human condition. But they definitely have a leg up from what I had, for sure.
Well, I think that it's just when children have the time and space to try new things and to fail, or when they
Right.
have that attitude of experimenting,
Yeah.
rather than, because there's so many threats. Unless, I don't know if that's just the way I felt, but I felt growing up, it was, I constantly was trying to please people, and if I
Yes.
didn't get that grade, and it wasn't only one grade, now you're talking 4 semesters, multiple subjects, there was so much pressure.
Yep.
And if it was if you didn't make the grade, there were so many threats to how awful your life would be, and
Right.
that you would just be a waste of society.
Right. And
That was what I've
tried-
heard.
Yeah, if you tried something new and failed, that brought your GPA down.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Just having
Whereas,
this.
yeah, our kids are allowed to try things and fail. And it's like, oh, that didn't work. Okay. It didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember joking recently. A friend of mine at work and I were doing something, and one of us made a mistake on something, and we're like, oh no, it's going to go on your permanent record. But that was a thing. Even though there's no such thing as a permanent record, that was a thing that they held over us. This is going to go on my permanent record. I can't try something new. I have to do what I'm good at.
Right. And I think it's more real worldish that you can try things, and it's great to be, we talk about a lot about being heart centered and
Yes.
passion centered, and having that the motivation, I should say not the motivation, but the inner inspiration, that inner drive, I
Yep.
feel will help get children through things. And I also think that having the opportunity to study what they want growing up gets
Yeah.
them in touch with passions. The
Right.
energy.
And teaching them that they don't have to be good at everything, they just have to enjoy it. So I remember like the kids taking gymnastics or dance or whatever it was, and one of them coming to me and be like, "Oh, I'm not good. Like those other girls are way better than I am." I'm like, "You can quit if you want to, but are you enjoying it?" "Yeah, I am." "Then stick with it. You don't have to be good. Just stick with it."
Yeah, and it's interesting. It seems like we're redefining what success is. It's like the old world of success is all about survival. Like we look where we're coming from and it's like, okay, we'll just, make the most money and make sure your future's set up. But now we're really rewiring and being like, wait a minute, success has a lot to do with like happiness and fulfillment, which has a lot to do with doing what you actually like to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we're always going to have things in our lives that we have to do that we don't like, but it's that 80-20 thing. If you enjoy 80% of what you do, you're in a good place. So, and teaching the kids to follow the joy.
Yeah. I feel like unschooling has really taught me as an adult, even like where that line is. Like, of course, there's going to be stuff that we need to do. And it's really been shedding all of the conditioning of stuff that I thought I needed to do, but I really didn't need to do them. And then I project that onto my kids and they really show me. They're such good mirrors. They're like,
oh yeah,
why are we doing this? I don't want to be forced to do, they'll basically try to find out where the boundary is on everything.
Yep.
And it's really helped me redefine like, well, where have I put weird boundaries on things where there doesn't necessarily need to, okay, we can let that one go. Or it helps me define like that one we're not letting go. That one actually is, we need to shower at least like,
right.
every other day, whatever it is.
Right. This is truly necessary. You really do need to brush your teeth. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's truly necessary. Absolutely. I just looked at the time. This has been wonderful, but I need to get going.
Same. Thanks for reminding us of the time.
Yeah.
It was so
already.
Karen, I appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot, and I'm still here. I'm just feeding my baby. But
so
yeah.
cute. So is this a weekly thing? I mean,
yes, it's a weekly thing.
Okay.
I'm actually going to become a staff member at a Sudbury school, and I think I'm going to start working Thursday. So we may switch the day from Thursday. But
Well, let me know if I can help more. I mean, I don't know that I can necessarily tell my story again to you guys. But if you've got specific questions, Angela's got my email. I mean, Andrea, I'm sorry, I'm getting you guys confused already. So, but good luck to both of you. I mean, this is such an incredible way to parent. It's the best.
Yay.
Enjoy it.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, I do have your email. If I think of anything, or if we have like some type of mentor, or we'll definitely. I appreciate you coming on and responding to my email, because it just feels so good to hear, children that were raised this way. No matter how many times I hear the stories, it's always
I know,
just
right? It's so
reassuring.
heartwarming.
It's comforting. It's like a virtual hug. So I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Awesome. All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That was great. I really enjoyed that. And thank you, Gail, for listening, and whoever else may have stuck with us in the future.
I think I will be able to upload this one, and I just for any of our group members, just be patient. We're gathering people to to have fun and get the word out there about this style of education. So our technology isn't perfect, but yes, if you do want to come on, we'll invite you to come to the Zooms. And yeah, this was great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Little one
All
was
right.
waving goodbye. You want to say goodbye? You wanna wave?
Bye.
Bye. Oh, he won't do it. The camera was off. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. As we were saying goodbye to Sharon.
All right. So next week, same time. If anything changes, just let me know, Angela. We can be flexible. And have a great week.
Yay. Thank you. You too. Talk soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye, Gail.